From the agreement itself to the most important part of the agreement. As we move forward from Section 27, where we focused on property management agreements as the legal framework for the relationship between the owner and the property management firm, we now narrow in on the heart of that agreement, the material terms and conditions. If Section 27 explained why the agreement matters and what broad categories it must contain, Section 28 explains the specific provisions that make the agreement truly workable, enforceable, and useful in real life. In other words, Section 27 gave us the structure of the contract, and Section 28 gives us the substance inside it. The material terms and conditions section is one of the most important parts of a property management agreement because it outlines the core duties, limits, expectations, and obligations of both parties. This is the section that helps prevent disputes before they happen. When the agreement clearly explains what the property manager will do, what the owner must do, how money will be handled, and how the relationship may end, both sides can operate with confidence. When these terms are vague, misunderstandings quickly turn into complaints, financial disputes, or legal problems. One of the first and most important material terms is the scope of services. The agreement should clearly state exactly what the property management firm will provide. This can include marketing the property, showing units, screening tenants, negotiating leases, collecting rent, coordinating maintenance, handling tenant communication, and maintaining compliance with applicable laws. The key is specificity. A strong agreement does not simply say the manager will manage the property. It explains what that means in day-to-day practice. This ties directly back to Section 17 on services offered, because the services described in your business model must match the services promised in your contract. The agreement should also define the property manager's specific responsibilities in more detail. These may include legal compliance, tenant screening, rent collection, financial reporting, and, when authorized, managing evictions or maintenance issues. This connects to earlier sections on the Landlord-Tenant Act, fair housing, trust account handling, and broker supervision. A property manager's duties must not only be operationally clear, they must also be legally compliant. For example, if the manager is screening tenants, the agreement should reflect that the process will be carried out in compliance with fair housing laws and applicable screening standards. The property owner's obligations must also be clearly stated. Many disputes arise because owners assume the manager will handle everything, while the manager assumes the owner will fund repairs, maintain insurance, or approve major expenses. A good agreement explains what the owner must do, including providing funds for major repairs, maintaining proper insurance, paying taxes, and providing access, keys, or documents necessary for management. This is an important balance point in the contract. The agreement should not only define what the manager promises to do, it should also define what the owner is expected to do in return. Financial terms are another critical part of the material conditions. The agreement must clearly describe the management fee, any leasing fee, renewal fee, maintenance coordination fee, or other charges. It should also explain when those fees are paid and how they are calculated. This connects directly to earlier sections on accounting, balance sheets, and transparency. Unclear fee terms are one of the easiest ways to create conflict. When compensation is explained clearly, both parties know what to expect, and the manager is better protected from accusations of hidden costs or unauthorized charges. The term of the agreement must also be clearly addressed. The contract should specify the start date and end date, along with any automatic renewal provisions. It should also explain how termination works, including notice requirements, grounds for termination, and any early termination fees if permitted. This connects strongly back to Section 27, where we discussed the broader requirements for property management agreements, and also to earlier discussions on final accounting and return of documents upon termination. A contract is much easier to manage when both parties understand how it begins, how long it lasts, and how it can properly end. Signatures and dates are essential because they make the agreement enforceable. The owner or the owner's authorized agent must sign, and the property management firm must sign through its designated broker or authorized licensee. These signatures confirm consent and legally bind both parties. The dates establish when the agreement becomes effective and when duties begin. Without proper signatures and dates, even a well-written agreement can become difficult to enforce. This ties back to the prior section's focus on legality and enforceability. Termination provisions deserve special attention because they often become the focus of disputes when relationships break down. A strong agreement explains the conditions for termination, the notice required, any fees that may apply, and the steps that must be taken once the relationship ends. This may include returning keys, transferring records, finalizing accounting, and assisting with the transition to a new manager if needed. These details matter because property management relationships do not always end smoothly. When the agreement provides a roadmap for termination, the broker is in a much stronger position to manage the exit without unnecessary conflict. The agreement may also include dispute resolution clauses, insurance provisions, indemnification language, and special considerations such as electronic signatures, notarization, or multiple ownership signatures. These provisions help address real-world issues that often arise in property management. They may not seem as central as the scope of services or compensation, but they can become extremely important when a conflict develops or a transaction is challenged later. As we tie this section back to Section 27, the relationship is clear. Section 27 showed us that the property management agreement is the controlling legal document for the relationship. Section 28 now shows us that the material terms and conditions are the most important part of that document because they define how the relationship actually works. A property management agreement without strong material terms is like a blueprint without measurements. It may look complete, but it is not ready to build from. Online discussion. Why are material terms and conditions considered the most important part of a property management agreement? Answer: because they define the core duties, expectations, financial terms, and responsibilities of both parties, reducing confusion and making the agreement enforceable. How do clear financial terms help prevent disputes in property management? Answer: they explain exactly what fees will be charged, how they are calculated, and when they are due, which reduces misunderstandings between the owner and the management firm. Why is it important for a property management agreement to clearly state both the manager's duties and the owner's obligations? Answer: because both sides have responsibilities in the relationship, and clearly defining them helps avoid future disagreements and delays.